The basic essay has distinct structure. That is, it contains an opening paragraph, several supporting or developmental paragraphs, and a closing paragraph. So good quality essays are very organized. They have a very clear structure that draws the reader from a beginning to some support, to some sort of conclusion at the end, or restatement at the end. We'll begin then to analyze the general essay format by looking at the opening paragraph, breaking it down, talking about some essential qualities or characteristics of an opening paragraph. Your opening should gain your reader's interest and should identify the thesis statement. It's very important that you gain the reader's interest, that you draw or hook them into the essay, so not only do they want to continue reading, but it'll focus them and gain their interest into some sort of idea or concept that you want to prove. The second part of that, part of the opening paragraph, is your thesis statement. Now that's essential. The thesis statement is the controlling idea that drives the rest of your essay. For example, you can use the analogy of a railroad. Okay, the tracks on the railroad give focus to the cars. You put the cars on the track and it goes in a certain direction. That's very similar to a thesis statement. The thesis statement is analogous to the tracks. If there are no tracks for the cars to be placed on, who knows where they're going to go? It'll be very unfocused, they'll fall off, not quite sure where they go, but that track provides distinct structure. It provides a direction for the rest of the essay. Therefore, the essay focuses, the thesis focuses the rest of the essay. It identifies to the reader what you're going to prove, assert, or claim. It tells the reader where you're going to go. Although the thesis is but one part of an opening paragraph, it is the most vital. Without it, the reader's not quite sure where you're going to go, what you're trying to prove. You can have awesome support, you can have a fantastic conclusion, but without a good assertive thesis, the reader will never be quite sure what you're trying to prove. Since these essays are timed, remember you have an allotted time period to complete this essay in, there's a simple method that I've provided you in formulating a thesis. Take a look at that as I briefly explain it. First of all, you take the subject, some sort of idea or concept that you have that you want to talk about. Then you add a specific feeling that you have towards it, or some sort of general characteristic about that topic or concept. That equals a thesis. For example, if you're writing some essay on an issue analysis, or an opinion, you have a certain issue, there's a topic of it. For example, state-mandated exit test. That's your topic. You add your specific feeling or characteristic about that topic. You do agree with them, you do not agree with them. That's your thesis. For example, state-mandated tests provide students a chance to reiterate what they've learned and are very valuable to society. It tells me the topic, it gives me my own specific feeling about it, and that equals a thesis. That tells the reader what I'm trying to prove. So keep an idea, or keep a handle on that, maybe highlight that, circle it, whatever. Remember that when you go into your test day, and you'll develop a quick, assertive thesis using that formula. The opening should also commit you to a certain language and style, as well as establishing a proof structure or frame for the rest of your essay. So the opening should also tell the reader how you're going to prove things, the arrangement or order in which you're going to prove things. There are some possible starting points which I've provided in your student manual for opening paragraphs. Let me go over these real briefly. Some of these are more conducive to certain types of essays, an issue essay or an argument essay, and we'll make some remarks as we go along this together. Some possible starting points are presenting a brief background to your subject or topic. Give the reader an overall general view of your topic, some maybe historical context of your topic, working your way towards your thesis. That works really well with both an issue and an argument type essay. You can define a key term or concept that leads you to more specifics. Take something that the reader or that the author has implied, take some sort of concept in which you're supposed to write about, define it, and work your way towards your thesis. Again, by defining something that draws the reader's interest, it gives them a hook, it gives them some sort of context to take this essay in. You could provide, oh, by the way, that works really well with both issue and argument analysis. You could provide a personal history or account of something in your life that relates to the topic. That's really effective for an issue essay. You provide them some sort of idea that relates to the topic, thus drawing the reader into your essay. If you're talking about smoking, which we give an example later on, you could give some sort of personal account or history about the topic or issue of smoking. And then you could work your way towards your thesis, whether or not you agree with a certain concept or idea about smoking. You could challenge the reader to look at the topic in a different light. You can take whatever's presented, challenge the reader at the very beginning of your opening paragraph to look at it in a new and unusual way that may draw interest, that will make the reader want to continue on with the essay, sort of like a hook. That works well with both issue and argument type essays. Another issue and argument type essay starting point for an opening paragraph could be using a brief quote. Come up with some quote at the very beginning of your opening paragraph that draws the reader into the rest of the essay. It could be a quote from some famous author, a musician, some part of a song, whatever it may be, but it will hook the reader and draw them into the rest of the argument or the rest of the essay. You could begin with a brief taste of your conclusion. It's sort of like dangling a carrot in front of the horse or rabbit. You dangle it in front of there and you make them take a step forward. And that's another way of using an opening paragraph to draw your reader into your thesis or main ideas. Finally, you can open with some drama to emphasize some key points that you'll be discussing later. You can use some metaphors. You can come out with some blatant statement that's sort of surprising that will draw the reader. No, the reader will think, well, I don't believe in that, and that will draw them into that, and you can twist it and use it a certain way. Some of these, though, are more conducive to the issue and argument type essays. Some are a little bit more abstract. The three you should circle that we're going to concentrate on that are really effective in producing quality analytical essays are the first three bulleted items. The presentation of a brief background, the definition of a key term or concept, and the personal account or history. Highlight those. Those are the three that we will concentrate on. Those are the three that provide the most structure and that are the most easy to see the main ideas from. Those will be the three that we'll concentrate on. To sum up here, remember that your opening paragraph establishes the direction for the rest of your essay. It's essential that you have some sort of hook or some sort of draw to draw the reader in. And then finally, it's vital that you have a clear thesis statement, which you're going to prove, assert, or claim. Along with the opening paragraph, you have supporting paragraphs. Now, the opening paragraph is sort of the skeletal structure. It's telling the reader the direction you're going to go into, the structure of the essay. The supporting paragraphs within that structure give the meat to the rest of the essay. It provides the support, the evidence, the data that backs up your thesis. The supporting paragraphs should provide evidence that clearly, and I want to emphasize clearly and logically, form or prove your thesis. Each paragraph then contains a topic sentence. Each supporting paragraph contains a topic sentence. Now, topic sentences are very similar to your thesis statement. Your thesis statement controls and focuses the whole entire essay. Your topic sentences control and focus a particular support that supports your thesis. Now, there's some possible arrangements within each supporting paragraph that you may want to use. Some, again, are more conducive to this format, an issue format or an argument format, and I will highlight those. First of all, you could arrange your support in the supporting paragraphs chronologically. You could order your details according to what happened first, what happened second, what happened third, thus providing support to your thesis. You could classify certain supporting details In other words, explain your concept or supporting idea by generalizing it by a particular class. And then provide specifics that explain what's unique about this. And giving that uniqueness, that supports your thesis. You could arrange your supporting paragraphs according to location. What happened first? What happened left to right? Excuse me, that was chronologically. Location is what happened left to right. Looking around. What do I see from my left side to my right side? You can arrange it that way. You can arrange supporting paragraphs according to compare or contrast. In other words, you take one idea, some sort of concept or some sort of idea, and you measure it against something else within that same category. Explain its differences, explain its similarities, its positives, its negatives. You could arrange supporting paragraphs deductively. In other words, deductive reasoning is when you state your main idea or topic sentence and then provide specific details that support that topic sentence. You could also arrange your supporting paragraphs inductively. In other words, you could provide some sort of general concept, some sort of general idea, and work its way down to a specific topic sentence. Now, I like to always use Sherlock Holmes when I understand deductive reasoning and inductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning is when you have a main idea and then you try to find certain support that supports that main idea. Inductive reasoning is the reverse. Sort of what Sherlock Holmes sort of did a lot of times is that he took many general ideas and put them together to a main sort of idea. Who did it? So there's deductive reasoning and inductive reasoning. And we'll explain those as we analyze sample essays. Within supporting paragraphs as well, there's certain levels of detail that you need to include. The first, probably most specific detail is the topic sentence. The topic sentences, again, is like your thesis. It focuses the supporting ideas. Each supporting paragraph needs a topic sentence. It needs to be clear and assertive. That's what the graders are looking for. They're looking for structure. As well, in your supporting paragraphs, you have clarifying sentences that clarify the topic sentences. This helps make the topic clear. It puts it in appropriate context, maybe gives some historical significance to it, etc. Finally, you need some sort of completing idea, some sort of completing sentence. This adds specifics that further explain or describe your topic. Now, if you notice here, I'm reiterating myself a lot. It's very similar to what an essay is. You talk about something, then you show them, and then you talk about it in more detail. So often in your essays, you're just explaining some key concepts over and over and over, providing detail that support your main assertions. So if you see a lot of, or if you feel like there's a lot of repetition here, you're correct. There is. And I'll get to that when we get to the concluding part. Now, the next point of emphasis on general essay format is transitional statements. Transitional statements are really essential to formulating clear and effective arguments or essays. As you write, with each successive sentence that you write, the reader should see connections to your topic sentence or connections to your main idea. Ultimately, they should see connections to your thesis. This gives your supporting paragraphs and your essay as a whole a sense of unity and clarity. It doesn't seem like a bunch of choppy little sentences put together. Rather, it seems like a fluid proof structure, moving from one idea to the next. That's what transitional statements provide. Using transitions from one idea to the next is essential. It increases the reader's, and in this case, the grader's ability to follow your proof. If your proof is full of a bunch of choppy sentences, the reader's not quite sure where you're going. Using transitional statements and phrases connect ideas to another, showing a logical progression of ideas. I have provided a list in front of you here in the student manual of transitional words and phrases that help connect ideas together. I'm not going to go over every one of these together, although I do want to touch on the categories in which these apply. You may want to memorize a few of these transitional statements. They're extremely helpful in connecting ideas, and they're extremely helpful when considering what the graders are looking for, which we'll go over later on. So these are some words or ideas that show location. So if you're talking about location, there's some transitional words here: above, across, against, along, among, etc., that show location, that you can use to connect ideas, locating one idea to the next. If you're moving and talking about time, chronologically, there's some transitional statements that are very conducive to that sort of arrangement or organization. If you look back at the organization of an opening paragraph and connect this to these transitional statements, you'll see some connection between the two. For example, now, if you're talking about chronological arrangements, here's some transitional statements with time: about, first, second, during, etc. If you arrange your paragraphs according to compare and contrast, there's some transitional statements that work very nicely with those. These are in the category of similarities and differences. Likewise, as, like, also, in the same way, similarly, etc. There's differences as well, words that show differences, transitional words that connect ideas that are different. However, but, otherwise, yet, etc. If you want to emphasize a point, some good phrases and transitional words that you can use to connect emphasis. Again, to repeat, for this reason, etc. Okay? They're all written down here. What I would do is, you want to highlight some of these, remember some of these, and use them in your essay to connect ideas together. It goes on to summarize, detail, to provide more detail, again, and, likewise, etc., and to clarify ideas. In other words, for instance, put in other ways, for example, etc. Again, some of these transitional words and phrases lend themselves better to certain arrangements: chronological arrangements, classification arrangements, inductive, deductive reasoning, etc. Finally, the last part of your essay is the concluding paragraph. Now, the concluding paragraph is oftentimes the most difficult, because you feel like you've already said things over and over again, and you're almost getting bored with writing the same thing over and over again. But the concluding paragraph is really the last part of the essay the reader is going to remember. So it is essential, and you don't want to take it lightly. You don't just want to reiterate exactly what you said word for word. It gets repetitious for the reader. The conclusion as well should be briefed. Okay? It should be very short, concise. It should tie all the supporting points together, proving again the thesis. It should leave the reader with a clear understanding of what you asserted. Okay? What direction that you went in. Again, I'd like to emphasize, and you might want to make notes on this, you do not want to summarize the points that you made earlier word for word. However, you do want to touch on those points in some other fashion. Maybe relate some sort of image that you're trying to get across. Put it in different words. Do something besides arrange your conclusion, going over your supporting ideas word for word like a grocery list. That's not effective. Arrange them in a manner that leaves the reader some sort of image on what you're trying to prove. Now, we've spent a lot of time talking on the general structure of the essay. And to reiterate this, all good essays have a real clear, concise structure. Opening, some support, and a conclusion. And we're going to apply that structure to the issue analysis and argument analysis essay. This structure you want to use as a template. So really work to understand this structure. Practice it, so when you go into the essay exam, you'll be ready to apply this template to whatever issue may be presented or whatever argument will be given to you. If we were to create this structure and give it some sort of image or picture, it would look like the following page. Now turn the page over, your student manual, and you'll find an image of the essay structure. Now, it's sort of nice to have an image because a lot of people learn in different ways. And so what you have there, as I'm looking for it as well, and I have the image right here, It gives you a different way of looking at the essay. Instead of me just telling it to you, it gives an image or a picture of it. As you can see, the opening paragraph with the arrow down is a focus. In the opening paragraph, again, it focuses your essay, so the picture exemplifies that sort of idea. It has an arrow pointing down. It tells the reader what you're going to prove here coming up. The supporting paragraphs, oftentimes you'll have 3, maybe 4 supporting paragraphs. You don't want to have too many in this particular format, constrained with time. So the 3 supporting paragraphs are noticed there as blocks. Then the arrows to the right, the arrows are intended to show that each one of these supporting paragraphs should connect to the opening thesis. Okay, the opening paragraphs in which the thesis is contained. So the arrows show that connection to the reader. Transitional words could be those arrows. Transitional words connect these ideas to your thesis. And finally, you have the conclusion with the arrow pointing up. The conclusion, again, is a restatement or going over your major points and assertions made earlier on in the essay. Again, I know I've said this a zillion times before. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're telling me again. But a lot of these concepts sound repetitious. They should be. And again, if you look down at the very end of that image of a general essay, you'll see what I'm talking about. The old quote saying, tell them what you're going to prove, tell them, and then tell them what you told them. And that's exactly what that image is trying to get across to you. The opening paragraph tells them what you're going to prove, focuses the essay. You tell them with supporting paragraphs and evidence, and then you tell them what you told them again. So it's a lot of reiteration back and forth. Our next portion of this workshop, or this segment, will go into a clear methodology, a 5-step methodology that we can apply towards test day.